Alright, so in the spirit of what I've been doing for the past year and trying to kind of expand the type of video that I'm making, I set out to do kind of like a top 5 games of all time video. Then I kept thinking of more games and I was like, oh, I kind of want to talk about this one. So then it turned into a top 7 game of all time video. And then, because I was looking at that and I was like, top 7? I might as well just do top 10. This video turned into a top 10 game of all time list. And even then I'm like, oh man, but I didn't get to talk about this one. I should do 11. But I'm stopping it at 10, as difficult as that is for me. This is a top 10 favorite games of all time list. I have a feeling this is going to have to be put into 2 videos because I talk a lot. So this is probably going to be 10 through 6, so the first 5. And then the next video will be the next 5. And don't be afraid to play along with me in the comments. Tell me what your, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. What are your favorite games there? I would love to know, so play along with me. So starting off at number 10.
Oh yeah! This is happening!
My 10th favorite game of all time is Sonic Adventure. Now specifically I'm talking about the Dreamcast version, because the GameCube version and the HD versions are just, they're no good. They're way less good than the Dreamcast version. When I talk about Sonic Adventure, it's the original Dreamcast release. I'm not gonna lie, this is the only one on here. This is the only game on this list that I think might be on here at least a good 40% due to nostalgia. This was probably one of the most important games for me growing up, because I grew up with the Sonic games. I had watched the cartoons growing up and they were all awful, but this was the first time that I had really seen the Sonic characters talk, and the story was, this was probably the first story in a video game that had cutscenes and stuff that I ever saw, because I did not grow up with a PS1, which means initially I missed Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil, all those games that I would eventually go on to love. Sonic Adventure was the first game that showed me that you can do cutscenes with voice acting and an actual plot, and I think that had a huge effect on me. And that's not to downplay the fact that this game is still very, very good. The gameplay is still great. I think I would have to say it's the pinnacle of 3D Sonic. I still don't quite think that they have gotten this formula down yet, past this game, which is really impressive that it was the first try. And then after this, there has never been, a definitive 3D Sonic game. They've all had weird issues. So I think the fact that they got it this good the first try is astounding, given Sonic Team's history. The music is so varied. Each, character and level has their own, genre. It's just, everything's... And not only that, the level that I'm showing you right now, probably the footage, there's 3 different songs in this level. There's the normal level music. There's the level where he's running down the building, has a different song. And then at the very end where you're running through the city is a different song. That happens in every level. There's a couple different songs. I love Station Square. I love all of the adventure fields. They're completely unnecessary, but I love them. It just, when I was a kid, I can't even explain. this just grabbed me and immediately pulled me in. And I don't think I would be as big of a Sonic fan as I am now without this game. Which, you know, could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, who knows. Also, when I was a child and I had a baby brain, I wasn't very good at games. Finally getting to Super Sonic and fighting Perfect Chaos was like... that was like a huge accomplishment for me. That was like a huge moment. So this game, like I said, I think might be the only game that's on here that's really kind of just nostalgia, but I also do genuinely think that this game still completely holds up. I know some people, this game's kind of gotten a bad reputation in the last couple of years. I still genuinely love it, and I will defend this game to the death. So I don't really think there's much else to say about Sonic Adventure. I'm surprisingly not as much to say about that as I thought that I was going to. And next, at number 9...
Fuckhead!
At number 9, we have No More Heroes, which is a game that is just brimming with personality. This game is just fantastic. It's another one of those games that I feel like just speaks to you. You have to be a certain kind of person to really like love this game. And I'm not trying to like gatekeep. I'm just saying like this game either resonates with you or it doesn't. I tried to get one of my friends to play this game. He got like an hour into it and he's like, I just don't get it. The combat's not fun and, you know, I don't enjoy the story. The story is just so much fun. Travis is such a great character that you don't very often see in games where he's just kind of an asshole and not really good at anything. But yeah, it's a super simple premise, but it's always one that keeps your interest because of how fun the characters are and how good the writing and the voice acting is. It excels at a few things, but everything else it's just really good at, but everything comes together to make like a really solid package. This is another one of those where the soundtrack is all over the place. It's so good. There's not a single song in this game that isn't a complete bop. You know, the main theme slaps. The main theme of this game has been my ringtone for the past at least 5 years. Maybe I have something broken in my brain, but I really like the open world in this one too, just like Sonic Adventure, where I feel like a lot of people really complain about the open world. Like, there really is no point to drive around Santa Destroy, you know? You can collect items, you can get money, but really, the way that the second game did it, you don't need to not do it that way, you know? But I just enjoy being able to take Travis, run him through Santa Destroy. You know, I like being able to customize Travis, take him to the shirt store, the DVD store, you know. Those kinds of things just always resonate with me. Just being able to do stupid things in video games where it's not the main point, I always love. You know, I love the training mini games that you do. It has some of the most memorable boss battles, in my opinion, in one of these type of games, which I guess would be a character action game, which I think the rest of the next couple are going to be character action games. Suda51 is just one of those guys that has such a great, like, interesting vision in terms of story and gameplay, and like the way that the story and the gameplay actually like mesh with one another is really, really fascinating, I think. And No More Heroes is a great example of that. Like, Travis is a loser. He bought his beam katana off of eBay. Like, he's not some hero. He's not here to save the world. You know, he's just an otaku. You know, he has to go do side jobs. He has to mow someone's lawn. That, in my opinion, is great, and a great narrative for a game, and this game basically just nails it. I would say just like a little asterisk next to it, just like with Sonic Adventure. Stay away from the PS3 version. That is a lot buggier. I think it looks worse, and it spoils stuff from the second game. So if you can, ideally I think still play these on the Wii, but the Switch versions are very good, which is the footage that I'm showing now is from the Switch version. Next up, at number 8.
What is it that separates machines from androids like us? The machines have gained emotions, consciousness. The final screams they summoned on the edge of death. They still echo within me.
Coming in at number 8, we have Nier Automata, which is the most recent addition to this list, and probably, I don't want to say probably, but it's maybe the one that's most likely to change, just because I'm in this mindset now. In the beginning of 2020, I did a video where I talked about the best games of the last decade, and I talked about how Nier Automata I played for a little bit, and I need to get into it. Well, as soon as the pandemic hit, I played through 2 games, back-to-back, 100% of them, platinumed both of them. Death Stranding and Nier Automata. I cannot get enough of this game. This game is fantastic, and not a day goes by that I don't think about this game. It's one of those that just really sticks with you. Since this was developed by Platinum, it's got that, you know, that really satisfying, just perfect Platinum gameplay. This one, I feel like, had a little bit more of a budget, so a little bit more work went into it, as opposed to some other Platinum games. You can really tell, visually, this game is stunning. It's got a very unique art style, where it's kind of anime, but it's kind of a little drab. The story in this game was one of those things that I kept hearing about going into it. I always heard people say, this is like one of the most important stories in games. This is, you know, it's incredibly moving. It's just one of those great stories about like what it means to be human, which is personally one of my favorite tropes. I love like Ghost in the Shell and stuff like that. So when I heard that, I was like, I am in. But when I got to the end of the game, I was like, really? Is that it? Then I realized what I thought was the end of the game was really like 1/3 of the game, because you play through it 3 times. It's 2 technically. You play through it as 2B, then you play through it as 9S, who plays completely differently from 2B. Goes through the same exact story, but 9S has the ability to hack into enemies, and you kind of get to see more backstory for the enemies that you've been fighting throughout the whole game. It fleshes them out, it makes them a little bit more sympathetic, shows you what they're going through, which isn't that unique, but I think is done really well in this game. And then when you beat 9S's story, you play through the like final story. I won't spoil who you play as in that, in case you haven't played it, but that's when you unlock the real ending of the game, which is, like I said, I don't think there's a day that goes by if I don't think about this. I don't know what it is. The ending of this game, it's not even in the story. It's the credits. The credit sequence of Nier Automata legitimately made me tear up the first time I played it. So, like, genuinely, it's one of the most endearing human moments at the end of the game that I don't think I will ever forget. And I would probably say it's my favorite ending to a video game. It's one of those things that you can only do in a video game that's so impactful. The game, it's got great vibes. I feel like it's one of those games that I could just walk around the game world, listen to the music. You know, you can fish. You know, 2B can just kind of sit wherever she wants near a body of water and just start fishing. That's great. It's got good vibes. This game's got good vibes. The gameplay's constantly changing. You've got the normal gameplay with 2B. 9S can hack. There's shmup sequences where you get in these cool vehicles and you start shooting. And the gameplay is always keeping you on your toes. This is, in my opinion, as close to like a perfect character action game as you can get. So coming in at number 7.
Let's save the chit-chat for later. We've got work to do. Now you're speaking my language. There's only one way to ring in the new year. Let's dance, boys!
Bayonetta 2 is my number 7, my 7th favorite game of all time. While talking about Nier Automata, I said that that's about as perfect a game, a character action game, as you can get. I lied. This is a perfect character action game. Bayonetta 2 is like everything good about the first game and like the Devil May Cry games. Basically any character action game that you can think of. Metal Gear Rising. It all goes in there and makes a perfect bow. And I don't even know if this is a popular sentiment. I feel like people talk about Bayonetta 1 a lot more. But I think Bayonetta 1 is kind of slow. The aesthetics in the game are very dark and muddy. And I just don't enjoy it as much. The speed of Bayonetta 1, everything feels much heavier and slower. Bayonetta 2 is like, it's refreshing. Playing it is refreshing. Looking at it is refreshing. The visuals, everything's so much more crisp, so much cleaner. The first game I always associate with the color red. Everything's red and brown. And it's not very good to look at. And this isn't me throwing shade on Bayonetta 1. Bayonetta 1 is still fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But Bayonetta 2, you look at it, it's all blue, it's vibrant, it's refreshing. There's so much, there's water, there's... everything's just so much better. The gameplay is like, it's perfect. Everything feels as fast and as fluid as it should be. The dodge mechanic, which isn't, it's not from Bayonetta 2, but it's the best dodge mechanic that there's ever been in a game. The witch time is just so good. It's such a good mechanic that I wish I don't even care. Put it in every single game. Playing Devil May Cry 5 was such a good experience, but there was still a part of me that was like, man, they kept the same dodge mechanic from the first Devil May Cry, where you have to lock on and then jump in a specific direction, and then that's the dodge. Just copy Bayonetta 2. That's okay. The story, I don't think, is as good. The two areas that Bayonetta 1 is by far better in is the story and the soundtrack. Both of those don't hold a candle to the first game. But the story is still fun. I enjoy most of the characters that are introduced into this, like Loki and the Lumen Sage. I won't spoil that, but those characters are great. Across the Wii U and the Switch, I probably have over like 100 hours in this game. Like, no joke. I've unlocked like every costume. I've unlocked basically everything there is to unlock in this game, like twice over. Sometimes when these games get re-released, I'm like, oh man, I have to unlock all that stuff again. In Bayonetta 2, I was like, oh yeah, I get to unlock all that stuff again. So just really, really good, really memorable game. It's perfect. I mean, there's not really much else that I can say about Bayonetta 2, because everything just works in it. There's very rare a point in that game where I'm like, man, this stinks. I wish this game would move on. And the one thing that I'm worried about in Bayonetta 3 is that they... because Kamiya's back, which is a plus. The one thing that Bayonetta 2 did not have was his directorial involvement. Yusuke Hashimoto, I think is the name of the guy who directed it, who only did this, And then I think Mario Tennis? I don't know. It was weird. But Bayonetta 3 goes back to Bayonetta 1. I'm really hoping they don't do that. I hope it improves on 2 if that's even possible. Coming in, my number 6 game is... So for the last game in this particular video, in 10 through 6, number 6 is Yakuza 0. This is another one of those games that I think it hit in the exact right time for me, and it gripped me, it never let me go, and I'm still thinking about it. It's just one of those that, not quite on the same level as like Nier Automata, but Yakuza 0 is a game I'm constantly thinking about. It was not the first Yakuza game I played. I think I've told the story before, but around like 2014, 2015, I kept hearing people say, oh, you would love the Yakuza games, you should start playing the Yakuza games. So I picked up a copy of Yakuza 1 on the PS2, and I played it. I was really enjoying it. Then 2 hours into it, the game would lock up during cutscenes. So I started just skipping through the cutscenes. So I basically played through the entirety of Yakuza 1 without knowing anything going on in the story. And then I stopped, like, maybe halfway into the game, and I was like, why am I even doing this? I'm not understanding the story, therefore I'm not enjoying it. So I stopped. When Dead Rising 4 happened, I was so demoralized. I don't think a game ever hit me as hard as that, because Dead Rising 4 it broke me. I don't think I was receptive to anything, like any other games. I was like, yeah, I'll play Resident Evil 7 when that comes out, but I'm not excited, I'm not expecting anything. And then Yakuza 0 came out, and I was like, this is it. This is going to replace Dead Rising for me. It's fun, it's over the top, it's got a great story, while also not quite taking itself so seriously. It's got great side content. The combat is, like, perfect. And specifically because after Yakuza 0, I went and I played Kiwami, Kiwami 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm on 5 now, and I still don't think that any of those games, in terms of the combat, have hit quite as hard as this one. Because you play as two characters, you play as Kiryu and you play as Majima, and they both have 3 different styles that you can choose from, and all 3 are completely different from each other. It's just so much fun switching in between the 3, and I think this game has the best side content that I've ever played in a video game. Specifically, Majima has this hostess club that he runs. I spent so much time in here, and I had so much fun with it, and I don't know why, because it's kind of just like tower defense. But this, again, it had me so engaged, because they attached a story mode to it, like a series of submissions to it, so that you would progressively, as you got better at the hostess club, you would get a story, and I loved seeing that progress out. And I forget which one it was. I think it was Kiwami 2 brought this back, and I was so happy. It's just as good in that one. But yeah, the side content, the side missions are so much fun. This game, almost every single chapter has like an immense amount of hype. Like just something cool that happens. A cool moment that happens in a cutscene, or something that you actually get to do. The boss fights are great. A lot of actors from Takashi Miike movies made their way into this game as faces and voices of characters, and that's really cool to see them and to get to fight them. The soundtrack in this game is crazy. Yakuza 0 is really one of those games that it's never not fun to play. I've 100%ed each of the Yakuza games as I've gone through them. Some of them, Yakuza 3, are not fun at all to 100%. Like the mini games that you have to do for side stories, and like the boss battle at the end, not fun. Yakuza 0 is one of those that the whole time I was smiling, the whole time I had a big dumb goofy grin on my face. There was not a point in this game where I felt like I didn't want to be playing it. So that is it for the first part of my top 10 list. Bear with me. I gotta work on the next one, because not only I have to record this audio and then I have to edit it, I've also, recording gameplay footage and stuff to go over it, which isn't a big deal, but it is a bit time consuming, especially when you consider I had to go, I had to pull out my Dreamcast, I had to go get the Switch, the PS4, the next video is going to be even weirder. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I look forward to seeing, people's thoughts. Any of these games cross over, So I will see you in the next video where I go through 5 to 1. So see you then.